Hey there, I'm Mr. F, a former ELA teacher turned film critic. The movies and I are here to teach you everything you need to know about personification. So as they say in Hollywood, quiet on the set and action. First, we'll give you the long textbook definition of personification, and then I'll talk about it and explain it in a much simpler way for you. Personification is either the attribution of a personal nature or human characteristics to something non-human, or the representation of an abstract quality in human form. Shoo, that's a lot. Did you catch there are actually two different types of personification? Let's look at each type separately in much more simpler terms. The first type of personification is describing non-living things as if they were living things. The second type of personification is turning an emotion or an idea into a living being. Let's see this stuff in action. Grab whichever box of candy is speaking to you. Let's go to the movies. Now we can find examples of that first type of personification in a bunch of movie titles. A movie that uses personification in its title is A River Runs Through It. Now, are rivers alive? No. Can rivers actually run? No, they can't. They don't have legs. So using something a person can do, like running, to describe the speed and direction that a river's waters flow is an example of personification. Another movie that uses personification in its title is Chaos Walking. Is chaos a living thing? No. Can chaos walk, run, skip, shimmy all around? It definitely cannot. So using something a person can do, in this case walking, to describe the way that chaos doesn't stay in one spot is another example of personification. Here are a couple quotes that use personification. In Avatar, they say the winds whispered their secrets. Is the wind alive? No. Can it whisper or have secrets then? Absolutely not. So describing the wind as doing something a human being can do, like whisper or have secrets, is an example of personification. And saying it this way makes the wind feel like more alive, more mysterious.
The sea was angry that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli.
Is the sea a living thing? No. It may have living things in it, but the sea itself is not alive. So, can it be angry or have big feelings? Definitely not. Describing the sea as feeling the way a human being can feel, angry, is an example of personification. See how using personification makes the sea sound like a dangerous creature you should definitely be afraid of? To find the second type of personification, we're going to look at characters, because the second type of personification turns ideas or emotions into living beings that can walk, talk, pick their nose, pretty much do whatever a human being can. The best example of this is the crew from Inside Out. Are things like joy, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, anxiety, ennui, there's so many I can't remember them all, but are these things human beings? No. Do they exist as physical beings in our world? No, they do not. Then turning them into living beings that can walk and talk like people do qualifies as personification. Another example of this kind of personification comes from the classic 90s flick Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Megadorks Bill and Ted are facing death, literally. Is death a real human being in real life? No. Does it exist as a physical thing in our world? No, it doesn't. Whoa, I can feel you disagreeing with me on that one. Hear me out, because this is how it works. Yes, death has physical consequences for people. And physical things like viruses or nuclear bombs can cause death. But we're talking about the idea of death. We're talking about death in general, not one specific death. More on that later, but trust me, the Grim Reaper is a personification of the idea of death, and probably a pretty familiar one too. Finding examples of personification and using it in your own writing is pretty easy to do. Here's how. Take a look at what you're talking about and decide what part of it do you want to highlight. Maybe it's the way it sounds, maybe it's the way it moves, maybe it's the way it feels, maybe it's the way it makes you feel. Let's say we're talking about wind. If the wind is loud, let's think about what people do when they're loud. Well, people are loud when they scream, so we could say the wind is screaming. Maybe the wind is moving fast. We can think about how people move fast. People move fast when they sprint. So we could say the wind is sprinting. Is the wind scary? How do people scare people? Well, you can scare someone by jumping out from behind the corner of a building. So we could say the wind jumped out from behind the corner of the building. What if the wind was loud, fast, and scary? Well, maybe we could write this sentence. The screaming wind jumped out at me from behind the corner before sprinting away with an evil laugh. Weird sentence, but a lot of really cool personification. Now, one thing to look out for is when an idea is described in the same words as its physical representation. Here's what I mean. So my friend loves basketball. Now, after he finishes a game, does he go home and snuggle his basketball on the couch? No, absolutely not. He doesn't love the basketball. He loves basketball, the idea of basketball. So, basketball is something you can personify. You can transform it into something with arms and legs and it walks and talks. However, you cannot take an actual basketball and personify it. I mean, you could draw a basketball, give it arms and legs, and make it into a character, sure. But it would not count as personification. That's what you got to look out for. Giving a physical basketball arms, legs, and a mind would be anthropomorphization. That's where you turn a physical object or an animal into a living thing that walks and talks like a person. So, in Beauty and the Beast, a candlestick, a clock, and a teacup walk around, talk, and sing. In Zootopia, animals walk, talk, and solve crimes like human beings. But watch out, all of those characters are not personification. They're anthropomorphization. So why are Joy and her crew personifications? Because they're not physical objects or animals. They are an abstract quality, which means they're an idea or an emotion that have been turned into human-like form. So think of personification as kind of like a power boost for your writing. It makes the things you're describing feel alive, feel more energetic, feel more powerful. As a critic, I'll write about most of my observations in a literal way. But if there's something really important I want my audience to notice, I'll use personification kind of as a spotlight to give them the signal that this is the really important stuff to me. All right, let's review. The first type of personification is describing non-living things as if they were living things. And the second type of personification is actually turning an emotion or an idea into a living being. Use a movie example to help you remember what personification is. You can use anything from the video, but here's a couple. Chaos walking is an example because chaos can't walk. The Avatar quote, "The wind whispered its secret," is personification because the wind is not a person and it's doing something that a person can. Also, the characters of Inside Out, because these are human traits that are in walking, talking, human form. Watch out for random animals or objects walking and talking, like the characters in Beauty and the Beast or Zootopia. That's not personification. I'll be using personification in my reviews. You can check out the reviews on all the latest movies and TV shows on my YouTube channel, Mr. F. Diggs Movies, or my website, mrfdiggsmovies.com. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Please share it with a friend. In fact, please share it with your ELA teacher so that we can keep using movies and TV shows you love to teach you ELA. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.